In this video, we are going to use Autodesk Inventor to create a basic individual part. We're going to look at the user interface using a 2D sketch, show you how to do some dimensioning, extruding. We'll look at sketch visibility, how to navigate with the view cube, and how to save a file. The part that we will create is this figure in problem 12, and we're given the dimensions that we'll need to create this part in the orthographic drawing. So the first things that we need to look at are the overall length, which is 5 inches, and our overall height, which is shown over here at 2.5 inches. So I'm going to begin by opening up a new part file. And on the left-hand side, I have the option to start a 2D or a 3D sketch. Make sure it says 2D and click on that. And when the planes come up, we want to select the XY plane. I will begin with a rectangle, and I'm going to draw that. Notice how the dimensions come up on the screen. The length, which is highlighted in blue, I want to make 5 inches. And I can either click with the mouse in the other field for the height, or I could hit Tab on the keyboard and then enter the height at 2.5, and then press Enter on the keyboard and zoom out so that you can see the entire rectangle on the screen, which is dimensioned at 2.5 by 5 inches. So now that we have the overall rectangle, the overall dimensions, I want to look at some of the details. This smaller figure, rectangular figure, is dimensioned at an overall length of 1.5 inches, 3/4 and 3/4 equal 1.5, and it's dimensioned from the top down 1.25. And I know that 1.25 is half of the overall dimension of 2.5 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and make this rectangle next. Alright, so I'm going to use the line command to go ahead and draw a line out from the right side over. And look at the little symbols that come up on the screen. I want to make sure that this is perpendicular to my edge, and then go down and make sure again that that is going to be perpendicular to the bottom edge. And now I can dimension. So I wanted the overall length of this smaller rectangle to be 1.5 inches. So I'll set that at 1.5. And the height is 1.25. So I'll click the line at the top and then the line at the bottom and dimension this at 1.25. You can type 1 space 1/4, or you could just put 1.25. It's just a different way to do it. So now that we have this smaller rectangle, we need to go ahead and add the circular feature, the hole that's going to end up in the extrusion. So the information that we need from our orthographic here is the center point, the location of the hole, and that is given to us right here. It's 3/4 of an inch from the edge over to the left, and it is 5/8 of an inch down from this edge to the center. So 3/4 and 5/8 of an inch. The other information that we need is the diameter of the circle, and the diameter is given to us at 5/8 of an inch. So with that information, we can go back to Inventor and we can go ahead and add this circle feature. So I'm going to select the circle, the upper left part of the screen, and I'm going to go ahead and create the circle. And notice there are some different constraints coming up on the screen when I locate the center of this rectangle. And I'm just going to drag that out click. Then I'm going to come back and dimension this to show you how that'll work. So first I'm going to dimension to make sure that the center is right where I want it. So I'm going to select the center of the circle and the edge. And remember, that was supposed to be 3/4 of an inch, and that is correct here. That is 0.750 inches. And then we wanted the location from top to bottom to be 5/8 of an inch. And so that is correct as well. That is set here at 0.625, which is 5/8 of an inch. And the next dimension we want is the diameter of the circle. So I'm going to click on the circle. And I want the diameter of the circle to be set at 0.625, which is 5/8 of an inch. All right, after we have this circle located and the smaller rectangle, we need to finish up by getting the last line. We're going to take a look at that next. So notice in the orthographic, this is given with a dimension that is listed as an angle, 45 degrees. So we're going to do that in Inventor as well so that we get it drawn just the way that we have it in the orthographic. All right, from the upper left-hand part of the screen, I'm going to select the line. And I'm just going to go ahead and sketch a line from the corner on up to this top edge of the larger rectangle. I also need a line extending out so that I can dimension from it. So make sure that that line is straight and go ahead and draw it right there. And now I'm going to select dimension, select my first line and then the second line. And notice now I'm dimensioning with degrees. So I'll click, and now I want to set this right at 45 degrees, so I'll type 45 and enter. Now I have the line drawn at 45 degrees. I want to trim away a couple of things that I don't need, so I'm going to remove this dimension of 2.5 inches. And right click on it and delete. And then I'm going to apply it on the other side so that doesn't cause any issues when I trim this line, this edge. Go ahead and trim this portion and this portion. Notice it relocated my length dimensions. Now I can finish the sketch, zoom out a little bit, and I can begin to extrude this figure. I'm going to extrude the larger portion first, and that needs to be 1.5 inches. Type 1.5 and enter. Notice the other part of my sketch just disappeared. To get that back, I go over and open up the extrusion by clicking the plus sign next to extrusion 1. And now I'm going to right click on sketch 1 and go down and check the visibility. Notice I get the sketch back. Now I can go ahead and extrude this portion, and this time it needs to be 3/4 of an inch or 0.75, and I'm going to extrude it away because I was getting kind of an error message there. Let's see. Okay. And now let's try to edit that. I want to show you one other thing. So if we go over to extrusion 2 and right click on that, we can go to edit feature, and we'll bring that back the other direction now, which is how we want that to look. Click OK, and we have the overall part that we were trying to draw. A couple things to look at. Once you have the part done, having all the dimensions and the visibility of that sketch sometimes is confusing, especially if you have sketches on different faces of the object. So it's nice to go back in, right click on sketch 1, and take the check mark out of visibility. And now you have a cleaner looking part. The view cube, you can set different options on this. So if you would like to, let's say for example, click on the right side, we're looking at the right side of the object. If you wanted that to be the front view, you could right click on the view cube, set the current view as front, and it reorients the view cube. You can do the same with the home position. If you want to change the home position to something else, right click on the view cube, set current view as home, and you could either fit it to this view or make it a fixed distance. I don't want to change that right now, so I'm just going to leave it as is. When you want to get back to the home position, you click the little house and you get it back to the home position. I prefer to have this as the front view, so I'm going to set that back. Set the current view as the front, and I've got that taken care of. All right, if you lose the browser on the left-hand side over here, it's important to be able to have access to that. You'll go to the View tab, and then to User Interface, and make sure that the check mark is in the browser. If the check mark is gone, I don't have a browser. You're going to want the view cube, navigation bar, browser, status bar. You're going to need most of these for the drawing and the basic things that we're going to be taking care of. So that is a common mistake. Sometimes something will get deleted. This is how you get it back on the screen. So that's the user interface. Once the part is done, it is important to save your file onto the network. And so, being as this is a new part, we're going to go to the drop-down menu on the upper left-hand side, go to Save As, and we are going to make sure that this is saved on your H drive. So you should see your ID number, and it's located on the H drive. And after you select that, you can select a file folder, create a new file folder, give it a name, such as design modeling. Select that file folder, and then name your part, problem 12, select save, and you have saved your file successfully. And that wraps it up. Double check and make sure that your part matches the 3-view drawing that you're working from, and save any updates that you might make.